Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're tackling a subject that is honestly a total game changer for modern agriculture. We're going to dive into the exact science and the standardized protocols for maximizing your greenhouse tomato yields using potassium humate. Okay, let's dive into this. If you've been in the greenhouse game for any length of time, you already know about the dreaded continuous cropping obstacle. It's a massive issue across intensive agriculture. In fact, research on medicinal plants shows that up to 70% of tuberous crops face severe soil degradation from continuous planting. We're talking acidified soil and totally imbalanced microbial communities. And guess what? That exact same degradation haunts greenhouse tomatoes, ruining yields and inviting all sorts of soil-borne diseases. But what if we could condition that soil while simultaneously turbocharging your tomato plant's growth? So here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll cover what potassium humate actually is, why it's so great for tomatoes, how to prep your facility, basal fertilizer application, and finally, top dressing at those absolutely crucial growth stages based on the Liaoning provincial standard. All right, kicking things off with Section 1. What exactly is potassium humate? Officially, it is classified as an organic fertilizer. It's highly alkaline, sitting right at a pH of 9 to 10. Physically, you might see it as a powder, maybe granules, or even these little black flakes. But here's its real superpower. It is completely water-soluble. 100%, which makes it an absolute dream if you're running modern fertigation and drip irrigation systems. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the hard data. Take a look at this official certificate of analysis from Han Technology Co. Limited. It's got the authorized signature right there for batch number 2025-0216. You see, we aren't just talking about some generic fertilizer here. We're looking at precise, verified manufacturing specs. And ma'am, the numbers on this breakdown are just an absolute powerhouse. It guarantees an organic matter content of at least 80%. Plus, it packs a minimum of 55% humic acid and 50% fulvic acid, along with 12% potassium oxide, to deliver that vital potassium straight to your crops. And remember how I mentioned it dissolves completely? That means every single ounce of this rich organic matter flows seamlessly through your irrigation lines. No clogs, just pure nutrition. Moving right along to Section 2, why use it specifically on tomatoes? Let's look at the yield and soil benefits. You can kind of think of potassium humate as a daily multivitamin, but paired with a deep tissue massage for your soil. It acts as this powerful physiological stimulant. Research actually shows it helps plants adapt to some pretty harsh environmental stressors, like low phosphorus stress, for example. And while it's doing that, it's actively conditioning the soil environment to fight off those nasty continuous cropping obstacles we talked about earlier. This comparison really hits the nail on the head. Your standard NPK fertilizers? Sure, they feed the plant, but they do absolutely nothing for the soil structure. Potassium humate, on the other hand, tackles both. In rigorous scientific studies, like those done on crop seedlings, finding the optimal concentration of humic and fulvic acids fundamentally improved the plant's metabolism. We're talking a significant increase in the net photosynthetic rate, a major boost in transpiration, and improved stomatal conductance. In plain English, the plant is breathing better, eating better, and just growing so much stronger. All right, Section 3, facility preparation. Let's get into the pre-fertilization steps. So the crucial point here is getting your setup right before you even begin. You've got to use a water fertigation system. That means installing soft drip irrigation pipes under the plastic film for every single row. And hey, before you run any nutrients through there, flush the entire system with clean water first. The standard dictates maintaining your soil's absolute moisture right around 20%. Oh, and a pro tip, after you finish your fertigation run, always flush with clean water for another 15 minutes just to keep those lines sparkling clear. Which brings us to Section 4, basal fertilizer application, laying that pre-planting foundation. Based on the standardized guidelines, here's your exact pre-planting recipe per 667 square meters, which, by the way, is about 1 Chinese moo. You're going to need 30 to 50 kilograms of compound humic acid and a pretty hefty 60 to 100 kilograms of organic humic acid. Now, you don't just sprinkle this on top and call it a day. You need to broadcast it evenly across the surface and then plow it deep, like 20 to 30 centimeters down into the dirt. That guarantees your tomatoes are going to have this deeply conditioned, nutrient-dense bed to root right into. Now for the really fun part. Section 5, top dressing at key stages. Let's move to the fertigation schedule and see how this all builds over the life cycle of your tomato plants. The standard actually breaks this down into some very distinct milestones. You've got day 7 post-planting, which is the seedling recovery, or the Huan Miao phase. Then, days 17 to 22, which is all about vegetative growth. And finally, those continuous fruit expansion stages as your first, second, and third fruit clusters really begin to swell up. Now, in those early stages, patience is absolutely key. After you give them that day 7 recovery water, the Huan Miao watering, you actually want to hold back a bit. You deliberately control the watering to encourage the plant to squat. It's a technique known as dun miao. Basically, this forces the roots to dig way down deep to find that rich basal fertilizer we laid out earlier. The only real exception here? If your greenhouse temps get dangerously high, then yeah, small, frequent waterings are totally fine just to cool the soil down. And when you do fertigate at day 7, and then again between days 17 and 22, I want you to remember this magic number, 4 to 8 kilograms. That is the exact dosage of your completely water-soluble humic or fulvic acid that you'll run through the drip lines per 667 square meters. It's just enough to gently stimulate that early growth without overwhelming your young plants. But wow, once those plants start producing fruit, the whole game changes. Their nutritional demands just skyrocket. For the first fruit expansion, you're going to introduce a balanced, large element NPK fertilizer, specifically a 20-20-20 blend, right alongside your humic acid. By the time that second cluster starts expanding, your plants are incredibly hungry for potassium to size up those tomatoes. So you switch things up to a high potassium 18-7-30 NPK blend. Then for the third expansion and beyond, you apply fulvic acid paired with that high potassium NPK for every other fruit cluster that swells up. And listen, during these super intense fruit expansion phases, the required dosage for those large element NPK fertilizers bumps up to 5 to 10 kilograms per 667 square meters. But you always pair it with your humic or fulvic acid. That makes sure the soil stays conditioned and that your plant's photosynthetic engines are running at absolute maximum capacity to process all those heavy nutrients. So we've walked through the exact chemistry, we've looked at the biological benefits, and we've broken down a highly standardized step-by-step agricultural protocol. By combining the soil healing power of potassium humate with precise, data-driven fertigation, those frustrating days of continuous cropping degradation can genuinely be a thing of the past. So I want to leave you with this thought. Taking a hard look at the health of your own soil right now, how could adopting this organic, high-yield playbook transform your very next greenhouse harvest? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and here's hoping this knowledge brings you your best yield yet.